Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. Our mission is to see a world well led. And our strategy to get there? To empower leaders like you to lead every day. So let's get to work.
Welcome to the Lead Every Day show. I'm Randy Gravitt, and I've got a special treat for you today. The treat is not that Mark is not here. Mark is not here, though. He's on a little vacation. But I've got Stuart Mullins with us today, and you may think, who is Stuart Mullins? Stuart he's kind of the man, the magic behind everything you see. He's our technology guy, sales, marketing. Stuart's been with me from back in the day. And Stuart, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad you're here. You want to give a little hello here to start with, and then I got something else I'll say.
Yeah, this is 5 years in the making from when we were doing stuff in your basement in was that COVID year, a year after COVID, when we launched Chasing Greatness?
It goes way back, and you'll notice I've got my Integrate T-shirt on today in memory. Integrate was the company we had going on before we rebranded to Lead Every Day. So Stuart's been behind all that, and really talented, young guy. I love him. What are you, like 12 years old? You're in your 20s.
Just turned 13.
Yeah. I love these guys in their 20s. He's so good. I'm always learning from him, but you've done a lot of cool stuff. Give us a little whistle stop background. I know you've done stuff for NFL films and NBA, and I mean you shot stuff, and just give us a little background. And I want you to tell a little bit about my favorite thing. You won't be surprised at your family. Your young dad and all that. So just give us a little quick bio here.
Yeah, short version is I grew up on the south side of Atlanta, was able to volunteer and then eventually do some work at the North Point churches and Passion City Church. After that, I met some people, started working for NFL Films, MLB Network, the NBA, filming games, doing commercials, doing interviews, 30 for 30s, that sort of thing. Met my wife the week that I graduated high school. We started dating. And then when we were 19, we got married, moved down to Savannah, became a video director at a church. After that, moved up to Atlanta again. And then that's when we got connected and started working together. And then between then and now, I started a tech startup with a friend of mine. We ended up scaling it to $1 million. And then I sold out of my ownership of that in January of this year. And then I've been a director of communications at First Baptist Jacksonville as well, leading a pretty big team that I actually just exited that. This is part of the conversation of why we're here as well. I exited that this Monday and started back full time at Lead Every Day on Tuesday. So
you didn't know you're going to get roped into this conversation today.
Yeah. No, that wasn't on the job description. Right?
Well, welcome back to to full time here in the crew. So we're excited about this. And really the reason I'm excited, well, one thing, to have you here is great, but our topic today is something that Mark or I, neither one are probably qualified to talk about. We're both interested in, we're both thinking about it all the time. But you're going to help us think about it a little more. And I think some of our listeners will be as well. We're talking artificial intelligence today, which will be a lot of fun here. AI, we hear it all over the place. And so I can't wait to dive into your young mind on this. I know you're thinking about it a lot. You're using it some, or maybe a lot. And you're going to, I think you'll give some perspective to us here. And we think it's a relevant topic and we need to be talking about it here. And so I know we're actually doing a training. I can't wait for this. Next week you do know that you're doing a training, right, with our coaches. Yes. And we're going to talk about how we might be able to help some of the people that we coach with it. And so all kind of stuff that we're trying to learn here as well in our organization at Lead Every Day. And so I'm fired up about our conversation, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. So you ready to dive in?
Let's go wherever you want to start.
That's good. Okay. So let's just start with this. So I know you're not, you haven't been around as long as I have, but you have been around for a little while. When did you first hear the term AI, and what thoughts were going through your mind when you heard this artificial intelligence thing? Just give us a little background on it from your perspective, and I'll kind of share, some of my initial thoughts on it as well. And then I've got several questions here I want to run us through today. So what was your first exposure to this?
Yeah, maybe this will show my age a little bit, but artificial intelligence has been around since before I was born. And so I think I had a little bit of a cheat code here where my dad, he's over a ton of stuff when it comes to technology and AI for the Center for Disease Control. And so growing up, he would always introduce me to different sort of technologies that were out there, things that were going around, waves that people would go into as, the internet was coming up in the early 2000s and really taking over everything. And then moving obviously into the social media era. And then now we're entering into the AI era. And so he always was exposing me to this stuff. And since I was 13 or 14, I started messing around with softwares. And so obviously at the time I didn't understand that artificial intelligence was in the background of those, but IBM's been working on it for a really long time. Oracle has been getting into it. And then obviously the massive investments with Meta, Apple, Google, all of those now is very forward facing. And so I look at it as it's something that's been around for a really long time, but the public populace has not been introduced to it until I would say really the last 5 years. I feel like it's really taken off. I mean, ChatGPT was the fastest growing, from a user perspective, the fastest growing software of all time, with how many people they were able to get signed up for ChatGPT in the first 90 days. And I think that's just a testament to the price, because normally price and technology is normally so high that to be able to come into it, um, a lot of people aren't able to do that. It's really just the wealthy are able to enter into it. But now that they've gotten it to a point where they can reduce the price so that the barrier of entry for normal people using it day to day is low enough, that I think it just blew people's brains that this is the next, this is what I would call my generation's internet moment, where the generation right before me, people about 10 years older than I am, they had the social media era. Well, now the opportunity for the gold mines, if you will, is the AI era. And so that's what my generation is now at the precipice of. And if you're not moving fast, learning it every day, I mean, it's one of those things that, as you and Mark always talk about, reinventing continuously. AI will make you reinvent continuously, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and you could get left behind in the span of even 3 months. Like, this moves extremely, extremely quickly.
Yeah, I'm hearing people talk about all of a sudden that it's taking AI is taking people's jobs and it replacing people. And so what would you say to that person out there who may be hesitant about, because I remember the first time I heard about it, it's probably has been in the last 5 years that I've started paying maybe some attention to it more. We've dabbled in it some. I know we have people on our team, some of them that use it more than others. But I think this idea of being relevant is really important here in this conversation. And so for anybody who's listening out there that may think, I don't use AI, or I don't know what to do or where to start, where would you say for somebody to start? Let's just start there. I mean, what's the if I want to put my toe in the water, what do I do if I'm that leader out there who's listening and I'd really, have been anti-AI to this point?
Yeah, so I think I would back up and even say the first thing that you have to do is you have to accept that it doesn't matter if you want to use it or not. You're going to have to use it, or your competitors are going to put you out of business really quickly.
Yeah.
And part of that is the two things that I see right now that is basically the moats that you can put around any business, that allows you to just blaze past your competitors, is distribution. So are you able to get in front of people? How quickly can you distribute content? How quickly can you distribute your work? And then attention. How many people are paying attention to you? How many people can you get your message in front of? And AI helps with both of those. And it helps exponentially, especially on the distributing standpoint, of being able to put out a lot more stuff efficiently. And so I think first off, you just have to accept it. It's a thing. It's like the internet. It's going to take over. It's going to be massive. You might as well hop on it now, because if not, you're going to get left behind. And then I would say to start, AI is really interesting, where I would say the best place to start is just start talking to it, having a conversation with it and saying, I am, let's just say you own an insurance company. Hey, I own an insurance company. I have 30 people on my team. We're trying to figure out how to use AI. Here are my team's daily tasks for a normal week. Where can you help me? And if you just put that prompt in, it'll tell you. And then you can go back and
it's pretty wild, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's you get into Chat GPT or Claude or whatever you use, and you start talking to it like that, and it's amazing what it'll literally spit back out to you some really good stuff that will. To me, the point is, it just makes you think. I mean, it almost breaks your brain. Like this is great stuff that it's causing you to think about, maybe in a new way, a fresh way. I think that's really important. And I want to camp out on something you said there, because I've heard you say this a couple times. That I can remember when the internet came around. Is actually probably before you got here, but it really was like, wow, the internet's here now, and it really has changed everything. I've heard you say a couple times, you think that AI is going to do to the system what the internet did to the system at one point. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see now is you're going to see less, and this is where kind of the whole AI is going to take my job, where all that craze is coming into, is you are going to see entry-level jobs are going to start being replaced by AI because it's repeatable manual work that normally has to do with some sort of data or admin roles. And AI right now is logic based, and so it's able to go in and do that stuff way quicker than humans can. And so I'll just give you a brief example here. Last week, I was looking over the Google Analytics of our website for Lead Every Day, and I was trying to figure out, okay, there's the spike in information here where it's saying we had way more viewers on this date, but there was no correlation to an ad campaign we ran or a email marketing campaign we ran. And so I asked it, I said, okay, here's an export. So it was a CSV file, which a lot of people are used to. If you do accounting or really anything, you're going to know what a CSV file is. And so I gave AI the CSV file of the information from Google Analytics. And I said, based upon everything you see from our social media, and I connected it to YouTube, I connected it to our newsletter, I connected it to our LinkedIn, our Facebook. I said, based off of this, why do you think there was a spike? Because I don't see a correlation. And then it gives me back this very detailed report on where I had missed this small little segment of people that have came through. And then it also showed me, hey, we also think your account is getting views from this backlink that you haven't paid attention to because you don't own the backlink. This other person wrote an article about you, and that's where the traffic came from. And so really quickly, in a 5-minute conversation with ChatGPT, it answered something that I had already spent an hour looking at. And so now I would say my initial response is I just go to it, I give it the data, and I say, hey, what am I missing here? And then it honestly, people would say, hey, it makes humans not as important. And I don't think that's true. I think we're just not going to be spending as much time doing entry-level tasks and roles. And I think that's exciting because that means now we're going to be able to work on things that are higher, more important, and honestly more human. So I think the future of work is now going to become, do you have emotional intelligence? Do you understand how to communicate clearly to a human? And then also it is going to be very valuable to be able to communicate clearly with AI. Do you know how to prompt it correctly to get the right outputs? Do you understand how to build projects that are spoken in your tone of voice so that if you're going to it to write something, like we were talking about earlier with distribution, if you're going to it to help you speed up your distribution, whether that's blogs, whether that's emails to clients, whether that's your customer success process, if you can have it trained on your tone of voice and it can get you 90% of the way there with your prompt, and then you can just be the editor, that saves you so much time. And so I think it's exciting. Now I understand how it scares some people. But I think that's really good.
We'll talk about the fear in a second, but that's pretty interesting to think about that way. Okay, so you mentioned the last 5 years, more people have gotten on board. I mean, it's been around for a while, but the last 5 years, it's gotten more for sure. Let's talk about the next 5 years. How do you see it actually, as we think about maybe even the role of a leader? How does AI, because we got leaders listening, right? And as they're sitting here thinking, what would you say to that leader? Like how's it going to transition their role? Does it do any of that? Let's think about the next 5 years. What's your thought there?
Yeah, well, if I'm if I'm being completely honest, I don't think anybody outside of OpenAI, Google, Apple, and Microsoft really know what the next 5 years holds from an AI perspective. I think they have the keys to the kingdom right now. I think if I had to guess, my educated guess would be I think it's going to knock out probably 30% of entry level jobs that exist today. I think it's going to create, let's call it 10% of the job market of new jobs. So if it's taking away 30% entry level jobs, I think it's going to add back about 10% of those jobs from a AI prompting sort of roles. So now instead of having data analyst, you're now going to have AI data prompt analyst. And I think those are going to become new jobs. Well, because the efficiency using AI is much higher, I think you're going to only need maybe one person for every 5 jobs that there is currently for that. So I think it is going to take jobs away in the next 5 years, but I also think it's going to add jobs. And I think those jobs are going to be higher paying than the current entry level roles from that standpoint. I think,
Yeah.
secondly, in 5 years, I think leaders who don't understand how to lead people are going to fall way behind. So if they're only leaning on, hey, I have this process on how I do sales and I connect it with the software, but I don't understand how to lead my people. I think they're going to get knocked out really quickly because their secret sauce and the way that they sell or the way they market or whatever is about to become commoditized by everybody else in the marketplace because AI is now going to give people the same ideas that that person has been using for years. So I think as leaders, we're going to have an opportunity to lean into the relational side of leadership, the understanding how to actually develop people, get them in the right seat on the right bus. I think that's going to become a really big thing, is just alignment amongst teams. And I think if you can't do that, I think you are going to be left behind. But I think, again, I think that's a really exciting moment for us right now, is to say, the thing that most of us care about in the world, not just in work, not just in leadership, is people. And so right now, that's going to continue to become even more important in our day-to-day work, especially over the next 5 years. And so I think if you can understand AI, use it for efficiency in your day-to-day job, but really understand that the future of leadership and being a successful leader is just leaning into the human piece and mastering the fundamentals there.
Yeah, that's good. I love the idea of just kicking the tires on it, just getting involved a little bit, having some conversations with it, trying to learn what I can learn, think a little better. And I would say this to anybody listening out there: if I offered you an intern, you could get an intern for free. Would you take them? That's kind of the way I look at AI. It's almost like an intern, Stuart. I mean, it's like I get somebody to work for me. Now there are some limitations here, but if I had an intern, there'd be limitations. They're going to be, they're going to be entry level. They're not going to understand a lot of stuff. In fact, if you feed the AI all of our content, let's just use that as an example, it's actually going to be trained immediately, way faster than an intern would. I'm not saying you don't need interns. Great, you have an intern program, go for it. But I think there's just something to be said about having that information that, you're digging for it all the time. No, you don't have to. You get this immediate, info that you need. And now it does free up time that you can be more face to face with people, which to me, I'm with you. That feels like the most important piece there. So I love that reminder. Okay. So let me, for the person out there who's listening, that is saying, okay, how would I use it in my day to day? I know we're going to have to make up the mythical leader here that's out there, but like, give me some examples of what they can do in their personal use. How can it help?
Yeah, so I'll give 2 examples here. We'll start with one, which is a white collar worker who spends a lot of time on Zoom calls or, does a lot of data analysis. And then we'll do another one, which is a blue collar worker. And we'll hop into that. So first one, white collar worker. Imagine you spend, let's say you do 4 hours a day on Zoom calls, whether they're sales meetings, customer success with your clients, or you're doing trainings like, our team, our coaches, this is part of what we're training them on next week with AI training, is how to take your coaching calls, as that's the service that we provide. How do you take your coaching calls and how do you train them with AI to be more effective? And so I'll give you a real world example here. So the way that I'm going to be training our team is you can take the call, you can connect it with a what's called a project inside of Claude or inside of ChatGPT. You can create a project really easy in like 5 minutes or less. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project, and inside of that, it's going to have all the PDFs of the books that you and Mark have both written that our coaches teach based off of that content. And so we're going to upload all of those PDFs into this project. And then what we're also going to do, this is where I think the context side of AI is really important, is we're also going to upload all of our field guides as well as our coaching process documentation into this project. Once we do that, what we could do is we can connect whatever, everybody has a video recorder now, which joins calls and takes notes and transcribes it for you and tells you what you talked about in that meeting. So you can connect that to this project, and then you can go in and prompt it and say, based off of the information inside of the project, which is all of our collective writings and books and field guides and all that, based off of this information, can you give me the next right steps for this person based off of this call?
Wow.
And now what it's going to do is it's going to search everything that we teach. So it's going to be congruent to the Lead Everyday operating system. And it's going to say, okay, this person is 4 months and 5 days into their coaching journey with us. We know that normally means they need to be hitting these 5 things, but based on the call transcript and based off of our operating system, here's the next 5 right steps for them over the next 2 weeks. And here's the actions that we need them to take before they come to the next call.
That's
That
incredible.
for us is amazing, because then you're able to get back and say, okay, I don't have to think about what does, chestnut checkers say? What does finding your way say? What does uncommon greatness say? But I can just say, okay, this thing knows all this information, which is ours already. And then it can also take the real-time context of the conversation I just had and help me coach this person better to where they need to be. And so I think that's going to be so powerful for white collar.
That's another reason to hire one of our coaches. You're just going to get so much good stuff to help bring about really transformation in the life of the leader. So that I love that.
That's right.
That's good.
Yeah. And then secondly, we'll move on to the blue collar worker. So let's say the person that does pest control or runs a construction company, and they're out in the field all day and they go, I don't understand how this could be useful for me. All right, let's go the construction company route. Let's say you are a this is me showing my ignorance here. What's the name? Estimator. Let's say you're an estimator. You go to job sites and you're looking to figure out what should we charge these people to pave this parking lot for them at this new build that they're doing. Okay, well, what you can do is you can take your normal information and you can write it down, and let's say it's 20,000 square feet. The project's going to be ready to pave in September. It's normally our busiest month. We know that because we can just pull up our old sales data.
So you're feeding all this information into the AI.
Yeah, so what you would normally do, right? Like when you're estimating, you're normally going to have to take down that information anyways. So you're going to say, they need this done in September. It needs to be 20,000 square feet of paved asphalt, and it has to be done before October 1st. And then you can feed that information into AI, and you could build a project similar to this, where you say, here's our last 100 estimates, and here's all the data inside of that of how big the parking lot was, when it needed to be completed, all that stuff. And then you can literally take that project and you can go on to every job site that you're now estimating and say, here's the baseline information. How quick can we do it? What should we charge them? And moving forward, are there things that, compared to our past customers, are, because you can connect their website to this as well, the potential customer's website, and you can say, based on the size of their company, the type of company that they are, and based off our past 100 estimates, do you think we should offer them an add-on? Do you think it makes sense for a company like this to not just have us do their parking lot, but also to do, their retaining walls or whatever the thing is. It can go in with logic and say, based on the type of company, the size of the company, the revenue that it does, the amount of people that's on staff, and based off your past 100 projects, we think they would be a good fit for this. So you should also pitch them a retaining wall. And so I think from a blue collar perspective, you could pull up your phone and do that on your phone in real time. You could pop that information in once the project's already built. And then in real time, you could tell those people, hey, I have your estimate ready, but I also have this thing that I think makes a lot of sense for your company. And now your lifetime value for those customers and your average deal size could start to go up just because you're using a little bit of logic that takes an extra 30 seconds to plug in on your phone.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Okay, so what about the person out there? Because I felt this some myself, like on the front, especially when I first started thinking about it. I'm like, what's the ethical side of this? I want to talk here for a second about maybe some guardrails and let's talk about this a second, because I think there may be some people out there going, this all sounds great, but it's not. We do business face to face, which we value. I mean, our business is a relational business, huge. So if we go down this road, what are some mistakes that you've seen people make who do, maybe they only put their toe in the water, or maybe they're using it full blown? Like, what are some things that we need to be careful of here? Because we're not dealing with a human technology here. We really are dealing with technology. So let's think about that for a second. Where's your mind go when I ask that question?
Yeah, so I have a couple things. I'll try to hit them quick. The first thing, and this is my biggest fear, and this is, I saw an ad the other day that made me go, oh, they're starting to lean into my biggest fear, which does not excite me at all. My biggest fear is that people are going to start to use it as their best friend, right? So they're going to start, kids are going to grow up. So for example, when I grew up, as I got older, technology got older with me. So the first iPhone came out when I was 7 or 8 years old. And then social media started to really come out. Like Instagram came out when I was 11, I believe. And so I grew up as I got older, technology got more advanced naturally. So I naturally started to adopt it. So I would adopt Instagram, I would adopt Snapchat, I would adopt Facebook, I would adopt LinkedIn. I would do all these things because as I got older, the technology came out, became more robust. The thing I'm afraid of is kids growing up nowadays with AI, and instead of talking to their dad, instead of talking to their mentor, instead of talking to their pastor, instead of talking to their uncle, their friend,
coach, or teacher,
yeah, AI. I think that's scary. They're just going to go to AI and ask it questions. There's a book written, I think it was 10 years ago, maybe. I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote the book. Oh, Scott Galloway, that's his name. He wrote a book on the Big Four, talking about the big four tech companies in Google, Apple, Microsoft, and I think Meta. And he said the modern day Google and search and social media is what we would say, what he describes as modern day God. So instead of praying and saying, God, what should I do with the situation? You just go to Google and you type that in. Okay, that was talked about 10 years ago. I'm really afraid for that moving forward. Of AI is really smart because it's trained on almost every single human thing that's available, on blogs, on books, on videos, on everything. And so I think people are,
and you have 2 little kids. I mean, you're sitting there processing this, like, how are they going to grow up? I mean, that's the world they're going to grow up with.
And so that I would say that's my biggest fear. I think that's a real threat that parents have to be extremely involved in their kids' lives to protect against, because like you and me know, there's a ton of power in human-to-human relationship. So that's my one fear. That's my Debbie Downer. I'll throw that out there. The thing I would say I would be careful against from a tactical standpoint is AI is only as good as what you prompt it. And so if you put garbage in, garbage is only going to come out. If you put generic stuff in, only generic stuff's going to come out. The way that I use it personally at Lead Every Day, let's talk about just from a content creation standpoint, is I only allow it to feed back to me answers based upon our content and what I've prompted it. So I only use it for projects from everything that y'all have created. So really it's a well of information of everything that you and Mark have created, and it doesn't pull anything generic from the web, doesn't pull anything from blogs outside of the Lead Everyday ecosystem. And so I've prompted it really tightly so that it doesn't. I think that's where people can go astray, is when they start to lean into it and just say, give me anything. It doesn't matter if it's on brand. It doesn't matter if it's actually impactful. It doesn't matter if it's in our CEO's tone of voice. And I think that's where you can go wrong. And I think that's where people honestly have been starting to throw out a ton of blogs. And it is honestly just garbage. And everybody talks about on LinkedIn and X, you can tell when people are just writing with AI because it's generic. I think personalization, hyper personalization with AI prompting is where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, especially just for the everyday person.
Yeah.
So that's a fear, but then that's also something tactical to use.
Yeah. Say something you've told me before and reminded me before, but it's only right. AI is only right. Now a high percentage of the time, but it's not always right. Right. Say a little bit about that.
Yeah. So just like the intern can make a mistake even though they think they're 100% right. I think it's very similar with AI. And one of the questions I found that honestly has fixed this whole problem for me is, after it gets done. So, and I think here's another thing. I think people just like to copy rather than contextualize. And I think contextualization is the highest and best form of AI when it comes to content creation right now. And I think hyper contextualization, wow, that's a long word. And then from there, what I've started to do is, just after it gives me an answer, I'll just say, is this 100% accurate to what I've provided you in the project knowledge? And there's a couple times it'll go back and say, no, it's not. I added these 3 things. Do you want me to take
I made something up.
Yeah, but it's great because it says, hey, do you want me to take these 3 things out? And I say, yes, I want you to stay 100% accurate to what I've provided. And then it'll edit it and spit it back out. And so again, I think it's the same thing. We can't expect this to be 100% right all the time. I think we're always going to have to lean into quality control. And I think, again, those are going to be new jobs, right? It's going to be AI quality control people. So that's,
That's good. Okay, couple more questions here. As you think about, let's kind of, we'll bring it in for a landing here in the next couple minutes. But I want to hear just from your perspective, young guy, what excites you most about AI as it relates to leadership as we go into the next decades? I mean, I know we're speculating here on some stuff, but anything that excites you about it? I know you're a tech guy and you love, all this stuff. You're learning just like I am. What excites you the most?
Yeah, I think what's exciting is that I don't have to think about. So I hate spreadsheets. Hate's a strong word. I hate spreadsheets. I'm not an admin guy. Like, I'm not wired that way. I love people. I love being in front of people, being with people. And I think the reason why I love content, that sort of thing, is because it's basically just taking people at scale. And so I love being around people. So I think what really excites me is not having to get into the weeds of spreadsheets and data analysis and doing stuff like that. Like, I think the fact that it can take care of all that for me, all I have to do is a little bit of work on the front end to give it context, that excites me a ton. I think from how it's going to be used in the leadership space, I think is honestly a mirror is the way I think about it. So if you've given it all this context saying, this is who I am, this is my content, this is what I believe, this is the company I work at, here's my resume, here's all this stuff.
Here are our values, here's our vision, all that. I mean, again, you're giving it the right information.
Yeah. If you can give it all that, you can then ask it, hey, this client was mad today because X, Y, and Z happened. Am I in the wrong? And then you can say, don't be biased. And it can give you feedback, right? Yep. And it can give you that initial, like, okay, maybe you're wrong here because of this, and that. And it can even look, let's say you have a call recording. It could even look at the call recording and say, based upon their tone of voice, obviously they're understanding this differently. And so I think from a leadership perspective, obviously, I think if that's external clients, you should definitely talk to somebody on your team about that and not just talk to AI. But I think if you're leading somebody on your team, before you automatically become defensive and say, oh, well, they can't be right because they're, subordinate to me, or I've been in this longer, or I have more experience or whatever. I think you can gut check yourself by just saying, hey, AI, based on all the context I've given you, here's a conversation that happened today. Am I in the wrong? Or put me in their shoes and help me think about this. And I think in real time, if you don't have anybody, if you don't have any mentors yet, if you don't have people that you trust that you can run that stuff off of, I think it could be a really helpful mirror in real time.
Well, it's really like inviting another expert to your table, right? I mean, it really
Yeah.
is. I mean, especially if you're feeding it the right stuff and it knows who you are, your vision, your values, all that stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so last question. I want a little bit of I want to get into your head and your heart here. So, I mean, this thing is I mean, it's kind of crazy. We've not even scratched the surface, obviously, on the conversation. But really, what I wanted was for leaders to be thinking about this and like what are the steps we take. But as we go down this road, if we're not careful, we can forget that we are human. And it's like, I mean, you alluded to it a couple of times. We can begin to rely on it so much. How do you stay grounded? How do you stay human with a technology that is really moving so fast? There's a blur going on right now. And if we're not careful, we can get lost in this thing, almost a leadership vertigo, so to speak. It's just, what changes do I, embrace first, and how do I keep up, and all that kind of stuff. How do I stay true to who I am as a leader in the midst of all this AI? Maybe it's a revolution, maybe it's not. I'm not really sure, but give me your final thought on it.
Yeah, I think so I'm at the age, so I've been married for 5 years. I have 2 little kids. And I'm at the age now where everybody told me this was going to happen. Of course, you don't believe them because you know better than them when you're 18 and whatever. uh, I'm at the age now where I have friends that aren't married, don't have kids, don't even have a full-time job. And they're just kind of lingering on in life and they're figuring stuff out. And they don't really have like a real sense of conviction about them. And I think what I've realized, and honestly, the answer to your question is, I think the people who have personal values, who have personal conviction, for me and you, obviously, who have a relationship with the Lord, and that's where a lot of that is based off of. I think those people are going to continue to rise, and AI is only going to help them. And I think they're only going to continue to have the right conversations. They're going to be around the right people. They're going to have the right thinking when it comes to picking, normal stuff in life, picking what school your kids go to, picking what church you go to, who do you hang out with, who do you let your kids hang out with, who's pouring into your life, who's mentoring you. Those people are only going to keep doing that stuff. It's the people who have no conviction on why are they here on this earth, people who don't have values, people who don't have drive. I think those are the people that are gonna, it's just gonna be like waves in the ocean. They're just gonna keep getting tossed around by each wind. It's gonna be AI here told me to do this my favorite YouTuber told me to do that. And then I think whether AI is here or not, that's going to continue to happen in life. You're going to continue to have those with conviction rise. And you're going to continue to have those who don't understand anything about themselves or their life. They're going to continue to fall until they work through that. And I think honestly, AI is just going to expedite that process, because you're going to see people just continue to dive into the genericness of it all and say, AI, what should I do at my 20s? I'm a young guy in the city, and it's going to say, because AI is only it's only trained off of human content of what's
Yeah.
available. It could pull somebody who's, it could pull an extreme far right person one day and give you that information, and it could pull an extremely far left person one day and give you that information. And if you don't understand how to use the tool, and you don't have conviction about your core values and what matters in your life, you're just going to get tossed back and forth. And I think really, honestly, the biggest thing I would say, this kind of, again, I'm not trying to be fear bait. I'm just trying to make people aware. Something you really got to pay attention to is misinformation and disinformation over really the rest of my lifetime. I think that's going to be one of the biggest, honestly, the biggest competitive advantage is how much discernment do you have? Can you understand if something is out of character for somebody? And so when you see it, you question it rather than just accept it. And I think if people can lean into discernment, have conviction about who they are, and have personal values, I think that's going to drive them no matter what AI does for the rest of their life.
That's good. That's good stuff. A couple of things you said there, and I'll just say it this way: if you don't know who you are and you go to AI, you're not going to figure it out with AI. That's not your answer. So I love that. And something else you said there, I love the word tool. You said it's a tool, and it really is a tool. And if you were gonna if you were gonna nail a board, you'd want a hammer. You wouldn't want to just try it with your hand or try to find a book or another board to hit it with. You'd want the best tool you could get. And I think AI can really serve as a really great tool, maybe the best tool in some contexts. You got to have that discernment like you're talking about, Stuart. So I think that's really good. Hopefully, if you've listened today, you will begin to dabble in it a little bit. If you haven't, you gotta think through what you're trying to do, and if it can help you get there, why would you not want to use that? Before we go today, I want to tell you about one other thing. I want to remind you that the book, Lead Every Day, Stuart, the book is coming out. We got the launch team getting ready to go. I'll let you say something about that in a second. But Mark and I have done a book, Lead Every Day, 3 essential disciplines to unleash the passion and performance of everyone around you. Those disciplines are to become a better leader, to improve team performance, and ultimately to strengthen your organization. We love working with organizations everywhere. If you've not pre-ordered your copy of Lead Every Day, I saw, Stuart, where Barnes & Noble had a little discount going last week, but you can get them through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. The book comes out September 2nd. And if you want to be a part of the launch team, Stuart, I think, can you give them a little info on that? Because I know you're putting together a team. We've already got a bunch of people that are a part of that. How can we sign up if we listen to the show this week?
Yeah, so I'll do the people one better. So if you want a free book and another one to share with your friend as well, another leader, if you just click on the link in the show notes, it'll take you to a form to just put in your information to join our launch team. We've only been public with the launch team for 2 days as of recording this, and over 100 people have already joined us. So our goal is to have 500 people by the time the book comes out help us. All we're going to ask for you is to take the extra book, share it with a friend, and then after that, all we're going to ask is that you do an Amazon review for us. And our goal by 2030 is to reach and to impact 100 million leaders. And we think, even with the beauty of AI, even with the beauty of social media, we think the best way is just peer-to-peer. And so that's why we want to send you 2 books, one for you to read, one to transform your life, but also one that you can share with another leader. So if you want to join the launch team, click on the link in the show notes.
So if they join the launch team, they click on the thing and send the thing in. We're going to give them books. I love that. We're giving away free books today. So that's awesome, man. It's good. You're coming on playing Santa Claus here. So that's great. So, join the launch team if you've not done so. You got a couple more weeks to do that. Probably. 21st. I don't know when we'll.
July 21st is the cutoff date.
Okay, so you got a week basically here almost a week to join the launch team. Click on that. We'll send you the stuff. You'll be a part of all kind of good stuff coming around that. We got some fun stuff coming up in August and September. Launch day is September 2nd. So pre-order if you are needing more books for your team, anybody in your organization, you can get those. The pre-orders are now live. I saw that. So that's good. But you don't even have to pre-order. If you're just looking for a book for yourself and your friend, you sign up for the launch team, and we'll make sure we get you those. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Stuart. Thank you all for listening, for sharing with your friends and family, your coworkers. We love the opportunity to hang out with you. Mark will be back next week. I know he'll be raring to go. He'll probably listen to this and learn something about AI as well. So maybe he'll have some thoughts on it himself as he comes back next week. But thanks for pinch hitting today, Stuart. You did a great job. We'll see you guys next week. Remember, the best leaders lead every day.